All right, so thank you very much for having me here. First of all, I would like to thank the NET Institute for the generous support on my research. So today, I would like to share with you our project, the effect of reading reviews on conversion. This is a joint work with Daohyun Lee and Kanang Song from Tepper from the Carnegie Mellon University, and I'm Xiao Liu from NYU Stern's marketing department. So in the e-commerce industry, there is a consensus that, reviews are very important. According to a survey conducted by the Dimensional Research, 90% of the consumers agree that, before they buy something, they actually would like to check online reviews. So reviews play a very important role in consumer decision process. And in the economics and marketing literature, there has been a lot of papers that documented a positive effect between reviews and conversion. However, much is left unknown about the consumer's review reading behavior. We still do not know, do consumers read reviews do consumers read review content beyond the summary statistics? If so, when do they read it? Who reads it? And where do they read it? And what content information in the reviews do they pay attention to? And most importantly, what is the causal impact of reviews read on conversion? You might wonder, why this question is important? Why do we want to study that? Haven't we already know a lot about the reviews? I will tell you that. Let's first think about an analogy to the consideration set literature. When researchers first applied choice models to study demand, they made a simplification assumption that consumers actually know all the products in the market. So when they make a choice decision, they know all the prices, all the qualities to make the final purchase decision. However, subsequent papers found that consumers actually have very limited information acquisition ability. They cannot know all the information in the market. So what they really do is that they form a consideration set at the beginning, and then they only evaluate the alternatives in this consideration set. And the models without this consideration set will considerably underestimate price elasticities. So this is very important. So that's why we think it's very important to also know the reviews read rather than all the reviews available on the market. This is one. And if you think about another analogy to the experimental economics literature, so the statistics we care about in that literature is the average treatment effect on the treated. However, if you really do not know who are treated, who are not, how can you measure the average treatment effect on the treated very well, right? So that's why we think really knowing what consumers read is very important for measure this impact of reviews on conversion very well. So and also, if the marketers know the impact of reviews on conversion very well, they can leverage the reviews as a new marketing mix to boost conversion. So because of the reasons, we really want to study this impact of reviews read on conversion. So in this project, we want to revisit this problem of what's the causal impact of reviews on conversion. So here we actually list all the influential papers in the field, and actually there is a paper from you. So yeah, it's right here, true. We actually want to contribute to this stream of literature by bringing in data of consumers' review reading behavior. We also overcome some of the drawbacks in the previous literature, including the fact that most of them use only the aggregate measure of consumer response, so they cannot predict individual consumers' conversion rate. And also, most of them only focus on one specific product category, so they cannot generalize the result to other categories. And finally, most of them ignore the very rich content information in the reviews because of lack of methodology to extract content information from the reviews. So in contrast, in our project, we want to quantify the causal impact of the reviews read on conversion. We want to first look at the consumer's review reading behavior. For what product do they read reviews, and who reads reviews, and where do they read reviews? After we describe consumers' review reading behavior, we can quantify the effect of the reviews read on conversion. Specifically, we try to quantify the impact of volume, valence, and variety, but we specifically pay attention to variety, in which we try to extract the very rich content information from reviews using state-of-the-art deep learning method. We also want to look at a very wide range of product categories to make the result very generalizable. So to achieve those research objectives, we obtain data from a e-retailer company in the UK. So it's a panel data of 243,000 consumers over a 2-month span. So this company literally tracks all the activities of the consumers. The data includes 2.5 million page views, 12.3 million review impressions, and 30,000 transactions. A unique aspect of this dataset is that we know specifically which reviews are read by consumers. How do we know that? Because if you want to read a review on this website, the consumer has to click a button to open up the review box. Okay, so this is how the company tracks the review reading behaviors of the consumers. And as a researcher, we also have this data. So the data covers a wide range of product categories. Broadly, there are 2 big categories, technology and home and garden, but we have more than 300 subcategories in the data set. I'm going to show you these categories just in a minute. And for each activity performed by the consumer, we know whether the activity is done on a mobile phone or on a PC. All right, so let me first start with describing consumers' review reading behavior. We try to construct all the consumer journeys. So a typical full journey of the consumer starts with the search. So the consumer will look at the category information page, and then if the consumer likes a particular product, he'll click a button to go to this product's information page. And then if the consumer is interested in this product, he'll click that button to read the reviews. Okay, and then if the consumer decides to buy the product, he'll put the product into the cart and finally pay for the product. Okay, so this is a typical full journey. However, surprisingly, we find that most of the journeys of the consumers are far from complete. 66% of these journeys only include this search stage. So the consumer only browsed some information, and he didn't do anything else, and then just left the website. Okay, and around 2% of these journeys only contain this purchase stage. So the consumer actually didn't look for any information, didn't read any reviews. He simply purchased the product. And 3% of the reviews, 3% of the journeys had the search stage and the purchase stage without reading reviews in between. So if we combine all these 3 types of journeys in which review reading does not take place, then 71% of the time, consumers actually do not read reviews. Okay, so for sure, in these journeys, the reviews cannot play any role in your conversion decision. All right. However, you may argue that, okay, sometimes when the consumer just browses the website to search for some information, the consumer is just bored, right? So I want to kill some time by browsing online websites. Maybe the consumer does not have a very high purchase intention rate, in those journeys. So if we exclude this type of journey and only include those high intention journeys, then 85% of the time, consumers actually do read reviews. But still, 15% of the time, consumers actually do not read reviews. Why is that? Why don't they read reviews? Is it because of the product? Is it because of the consumer's preference? Or is it because of the device? Okay, we find that actually product characteristics are very important in predicting whether you read reviews or not. We find that consumers generally want to read reviews when they try to buy a very expensive product, but they choose not to read reviews if the product is already very popular. So suppose a product already has 10,000 reviews and all with a very positive rating, then the consumer will choose, okay, I'm just going to wave my hand, okay, I'm just going to purchase that. And also, consumers try to read reviews for products that have a lot of questions and answers. So that means that if the consumer has a lot of uncertainty related to the product, they choose to read reviews about them. Okay? So here are some examples. We find that consumers tend to not read reviews for video games, pay-as-you-go phone cards, and a simple clock. But they choose to read reviews for floor care products, bed frames, washing machines, and wardrobes. Okay, so these are just some examples. We also find that consumer preference matters a lot. During the 2-month sample period, around 10% of the consumers, never read reviews. 10% of consumers always read reviews, and 47% of the consumers sometimes do, sometimes don't, and 43% of the consumers never read reviews at all during the sample period. So consumers are very different. And also we find that device plays a role, among all the, so on a PC, on a personal computer, on a computer, around 92% of these high intention journeys involve review reading. However, this probability drops to only 75% on a mobile phone. So this suggests that on a mobile device, consumers are less likely to read reviews. All right, so what have we learned so far? We actually find that for certain types of products and for certain consumers on certain devices, consumers are actually not going to read reviews. So if we want to quantify the impact of the reviews read on conversion, we have to focus on the right products, the right consumer. So this is what we're going to do in the next step, to only look at the reviews read by the consumers and try to quantify the causal impact of the reviews read on conversion. And specifically, we're going to look at the volume, valence, and the variety. And for the variety, we're going to try to extract rich content information from the reviews using deep learning. So here's the model. So we use the simple discrete choice models to measure the impact of the review features on your purchase likelihood, okay? And in the volume model, the review features is measured as the total number of the reviews read. And in the valence model, the review features is measured as the total number of positive reviews read and the total number of negative reviews read. And finally, in the variety model, we include both number of positive reviews and number of negative reviews, but also with some price and quality information we extracted from the content. All right? So the price information is kind of unambiguous, okay? So we can easily try to find out the price information from the reviews. But for quality, it's actually a very ambiguous concept. So we decided to use a seminal paper by David Garvin, published in 1984, in which he abstracted the concept of quality to the following dimensions, including aesthetics, conformance, durability, features, and perceived quality. So next, we're actually going to only extract the quality information of these 5 dimensions from the reviews. How can we extract the quality features from the reviews? We're going to use natural language processing techniques. So the traditional NLP model, okay? So the traditional NLP model relies on the frequency count of n-grams of words, right? So they use a bag of word representation to capture the content information in the reviews. However, this representation suffers from a couple of limitations. First of all, the dimension of the information content grows with the number of words in the corpus. Okay? And secondly, this representation treats all the features as independent from each other. So suppose one n-gram or a continuous of n words says, I like it. It will be treated as similar to I buy it and I hate it. However, you can easily tell the distance between these features are very different. So this is another drawback of the n-gram representation. And then lastly, to really use this very high dimensional but sparse matrix of n-grams, what is done in the industry is to actually do a lot of feature engineering. So you have to hand code a lot of the features to really know which features actually predict the best. However, given the large amount of the reviews we have and the nature that our reviews actually come from more than 300 different product categories, doing that is simply impossible. So that's why we choose to use the state-of-the-art deep learning techniques to extract content information from the reviews. Specifically, we choose the following 3 models: the recurrent neural network or long short-term memory model. The second is the recursive neural net, and the last is the convolutional neural net. So I'll just very, very briefly explain the intuition of these models. So in the first model, recurrent neural net, it works with sequences. So it tries to represent a sentence using this sequence structure. So it's a neural network model. So each of these nodes is a hidden node in the neural network. So to represent a sequence, it first maps each word to a vector through this lookup table layer. And then each hidden layer in this network's input will come from the activation of this lookup table layer, as well as the hidden layer's activation one step back in time. And then the final hidden layer will get all the information from the entire sentence. So in this way, it can actually allow for correlations among words, okay? And the second model is the recursive neural network. Instead of working with sequences, this model works with a tree structure, okay? So it's a parse tree. It uses a parse tree to allow for correlation between the words. This model is very good for detecting sentiment change. We know if a sentence changes from a positive sentiment to a negative sentiment. And we also can detect the scope of negation using this model. And finally, we choose to use the convolutional neural network because the parse tree in this recursive neural network is usually not available for researchers. But this convolutional neural network will rely on an input-dependent structure that does not require an externally provided parse tree. So it can allow for correlations among words for both short-range relations and long-range relations. And using this model, we can also find the local clues in the sentences. All right? So now let me show you the comparative advantage of using deep learning models over the traditional models. Here we try to predict, okay, whether each review contains each of these quality dimensions that I mentioned before. And also I try to predict the sentiment of each of the quality dimensions. And as you can see here, all the deep learning models outperform the traditional NLP models considerably. You might wonder, okay, why? I'm not going to talk about the details because deep learning is still like a black box where the parameters cannot be easily interpreted. But I'll show you some examples that I find that can tell you why these models work better. So first of all, I find that the recursive neural network has the capability to decipher complicated syntactic structure. For example, this review says, it is good for the money, but too flimsy. The traditional bag-of-word representation will treat this sentence as neutral because it contains both a positive word good and a negative word flimsy. Okay. However, the recursive neural network can know that through this parse tree, the part after the word but will dominate the entire sentiment of this sentence. So in this kind of contrastive conjunction structure, or X but Y structure, it's the part after the word but that dominates. So this entire sentence actually expresses something negative. And also the recurrent neural network and also the convolutional neural network have the capability to capture complicated semantic relations between words. So for example, in these kind of sentences, we can learn that sequence matters. These sentences all contain many negative words. However, the entire sentence expresses something very positive. For example, this review says, without this battery, my phone is useless. It has negative words like without, useless. However, the entire sentence actually says something good about the battery. And also here, these examples show that if the sentences are very complicated in terms of semantic relations, usually they express something negative. Here, this review says the curtain is the least appealing, so it's a negative positive structure. Here, this review says nothing wrong with this item. So this kind of negative, negative, or negative, positive, complicated semantic relations can all be predicted as having negative sentiment using the new deep learning models. So that's why these models outperform. All right. So before I show you the substantive result that I found from the paper, I want to argue that I can actually quantify the causal impact of reviews conversion. I'm not doing a predictive analysis. I'm trying to find something causal here. But definitely you have this question in your heart, right? So isn't review reading behavior endogenously decided by the consumer? They will choose whichever they like to read, right? How can you quantify anything causal here? So we need some exogenous variations. So luckily, I can get the exogenous variation of reviews using newly posted reviews. So think about this, okay? At the beginning of the sample period for this product, there were two reviews. However, after 1 week, someone else also bought the product, and then he posted a new review. And then there is suddenly a new review posted on the website. So if you are a consumer, okay, if you visit the website right now, if you choose to read 2 reviews, you're going to read these 2 reviews, including the new one. However, if you arrived a little earlier, you were going to read the other 2 reviews. So because of these newly posted reviews, the reviews read by the consumers are actually exogenously shifted, exogenously changed. Okay, so consumers are generally lazy. They're only going to look at the first couple of reviews. But the first couple of reviews can be exogenously changed okay, using through the newly added reviews. So that is how we get the exogenous shock of the reviews read by the consumers. And then we're going to leverage this exogenous variation to quantify the impact of the reviews read on consumers' conversion rate. So here's my substantive finding. So I found that reading more reviews on a mobile device, okay, has a positive impact on conversion, but the effect is not there for PC. We also find that, okay, this is also found by the previous papers, the impact of the negative reviews, okay, is stronger than that of the positive reviews. And so because we couldn't put all the numbers in this space, but I'm just going to show you that we did the same regressions using reviews available instead of the reviews read by the consumers. We found that if you use all the reviews instead of only the reviews read, you're going to underestimate the effect of reviews on conversion by 30%. So that highlights the importance of using only the reviews read. All right, so finally, let me show you what's the impact of the content read by the consumers on conversion. So we actually look at 6 different dimensions, okay, aesthetics, conformance, durability, feature, perceived quality, and price. And we find that across all the 37 top product categories, aesthetics and price consistently have significant and positive impact on conversion rate. However, the effect is less prominent and not very consistent across the other dimensions. So here we suggest that readers are actually very selective in terms of which information they pay attention to. So after knowing the relative importance about different quality information in the reviews, we actually suggest to the marketers to leverage reviews as a new marketing mix for boosting conversion. Here, we consider a counterfactual scenario where we allow the marketer to reorder all the reviews. So remember that we found that aesthetics, favorable aesthetics information in the reviews can consistently boost conversion. So here we run a counterfactual study in which we allow each consumer to read at least one positive aesthetics review. And then we try to calculate the increase in the conversion rate odds ratio. Here is the histogram of the increase in the conversion rate odds ratio. So let me put this into English. What does this plot mean? It actually means that reordering the reviews by just presenting one more review with positive aesthetics information is as effective as a 1.6% price cut for boosting conversion. Okay, so this the marketers can actually leverage the reviews by just simply reordering the reviews without sacrificing anything. They can actually achieve the same impact as a 1.6% price cut for boosting conversion rate. Okay, so now let me conclude. So in this project, we find that for certain type of products, for certain consumers and on certain devices, consumers actually choose to only for certain products, for certain consumers and certain devices, consumers choose to read content of the reviews beyond some statistics. And the consumers are very selective in terms of which information they pay attention to. Aesthetics and price information consistently generate a positive impact on conversion. And we also find that reordering the review content can have the same effect as a 1.6% price cut for boosting conversion. And we also offer some empirical evidence that deep learning NLP methods have both substantive and computational advantages over traditional NLP models. All right, so thank you very much.
Okay, our discussant from the University of Arizona.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chen Liang. I'm a PhD student from Arizona State University. I feel so honored to be invited as a discussant by the NET Institute. So thanks for the Dr. Liu. They present a very good papers here, the effect of the reading reviews on conversion. Actually, I enjoy reading this paper a lot. So at the beginning, I would like to summarize this paper, and then I will mention some comments I have thought about when I read this paper. So first, this paper do the following 2 things. First, they describe the consumer's review reading behavior. Second, this paper quantify the causal impact of the quantity and the contents information of the reviews on the sales. And regarding the topic, actually, this paper's topic is the online word of mouth. The online word of mouth is an area which has been well studied, but actually the author did a good job because they tried to expand the literatures in the following ways. First, they investigate the consumer's review readings behavior and its impacts on the conversions at a granular level. Moreover, the author, they also generate the new antecedents. They can extract the hidden information from the reviews and then use this information to help them to build a relationship between the review and the sales. So the methodology part, this paper actually is a prime example which combines the econometric models and the deep learning techniques. And this reminds me of articles which published on the economics, and this is a graph that shows the growth in different models and techniques. We can see that actually the machine learnings have experienced dramatic growth. And I also try to search the deep learning and the machine learning on the Google chain. Then we can also see that both of them experienced tremendous growth in the last 5 years. So the deep learning methods have attracted a lot of attention from the academics and the practice. So recently, it have achieved remarkable results in the language modeling, the computer vision, the speech recognition, and specifically in the area of the natural languages processing. They have tried to apply the deep learning method in the learning the word vectors, representations, and the sentiment analysis, the performing the compositions over the learned word vector for the classification, the machine transformations. And these are all the various applications of the deep learning methods. And this paper is also used the sentiment analysis and other deep learning methods in this paper. So there are a lot of things to like about this paper. So first, unlike the previous literature that took the consumer's review readings behavior as granted, the authors explore and check the real journey's distribution. The finding actually is a little surprising for me because they found around 70% of the time the consumer did not read the reviews in their online journeys. Moreover, based on the Garvin's multidimensional strategy, the authors identified the quality information in reviews and found more useful antecedents, such as aesthetics, conformance, and this kind of dimensions are extracted with the use of the deep learning methods, and they can directly measure this effect of this different kind of reviews features. So moreover, there's a paper they try to compare the performance of various traditional machine learning models and the deep learning models, and they showed the advantage of the deep learning models. And this will also encourage more applications in this area with the deep learning methods. So overall, this paper provides a good framework about how to apply the deep learning methods to the review data and investigate the causal relationships. And the empirical findings and the counterfactual analysis of changing the ranking algorithms provides variables implications for the managers. So I have a few comments. Probably those have already been considered by the authors. First, actually, I was wondering whether we can differentiate the regular consumer and the new consumer. So is that possible? So we can compare the journey's distribution for the repeated consumer or the regular consumer, and then find the journey distribution for the new consumer. Because for the repeated consumer, probably they have some private information about the products themselves. So they do not too much reliance on the reviews. And for the new consumer, probably they need more information. That's why they need to read the reviews. Even for the regular consumer, they also face up with the trade-off between the inertia versus the variety seeking. So or probably there might some difference between these two kinds of user. And then the second one is the potential heterogeneity issues. In the time series models, the author also mentioned about the heterogeneity issue actually. The changes in the reviews features might correlate with the error turns. And for example, for the high quality products, which might attract more consumers to write the reviews, especially the positive reviews. And the change of the review features might also stay dependent, but probably the existence accumulated reviews will influence the later reviews because of the social norm, conformance, or discrepancies seeking. So people trying to write some different from the previous review or try to write some similar reviews. So this kind of endogenities might need to think of if we want to dig more. So another point is in the time series model, we use the linear function here. Then actually, assumption here is the marginal effect of the reviews feature is constant. But for example, if we measure the effect of the changes of the reviews from 2 to 3, from 7 to 8, then the marginal effect might not be constant. So probably we can also add some flexibilities into this model and explore how the results will be strengthened. So another thing is the consumer heterogeneities. I was wondering, it is possible whether we can combine more consumer heterogeneities into this model. For example, we can use the latent class model or the random coefficient model to add more heterogeneities in this model, because previously, as the author found that there's different kind of user, different kind of consumer, they have different habits about reading the reviews, making a decision. So probably if we can also add more flexibilities into the empirical models about estimate the effect of the review features, probably it might be an interesting follow-up paper or just interesting extension. And another thing is, since the consumer, because the user, they use the real data, so how much reviews read by the consumer and what kind of contents have been read by the consumer, then there might be also some kind of endogeneity issue here, because the users, the consumer who read more reviews might also more likely to make a purchase.
So as to the first one, it's a very good idea, a regular versus new customers. So right now, it might be a little bit challenging for us to identify who's new, who is regular, because we only have a 2-month data. We don't know when they actually sign up, but this is a very good idea. Definitely, we see a lot of consumer heterogeneity here. That's a very good suggestion. The second one is about the endogeneity issue, potentially coming from the quality are different across different products. So we are using the within product variations, right? So think about the same product. It's the same product. Okay, just at different time points, only the review content changed. So the product quality phase effect is already controlled for, so we don't have to worry about that endogeneity issue. The third point is about maybe the marginal effect will change. We would like to test that. We can have subsamples where the review changed from 2 to 3, or the subsample where the review changed from 7 to 8, and test whether the coefficients are similar, okay? The fourth point is to allow for heterogeneity using latent class or random coefficient, and also try to look at the Coppolos method. We would like to try that. Those are very good suggestions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the great presentation. I just had a quick question to do with where you talk about consumers reading reviews and what the trends you're seeing there. And you mentioned that they're more likely to read reviews for more expensive products. Is that correct? So I was wondering if it's more, and you use examples of like a fridge or a cooker or something like that. But I was wondering if in that regard, it's more about it being expensive or it being more permanent, because I'm more likely to read reviews for something that I'm going to use for probably a longer time than something that's easily disposable, I'd like to think. But so I don't know if you had any data or any trends you noticed in that regard, or if it's something that can be incorporated, like, so as opposed to say expensive, because I think there are umbrellas that are probably $5,000 as well as I can buy maybe a washing machine for the same price. So I'm more likely to pay attention to the washing machine than an umbrella that's going to be blown by the wind once I walk out of here or something.
Yeah, this is
So-
a very good suggestion. So right now, thank you. So right now, so price is observable, right? So it's an observed variable in the data set. So that's why we just use expensive to describe the product characteristics. Definitely, we can think about other ways to categorize the products, right? So whether it's a permanent or like a very temporary products, and then look at whether that kind of characteristics also impact the consumers' review reading behavior. That's a very good suggestion. Yeah, we would like to look at more dimensions of the products. Yeah, thank you.
So one issue, especially about the order of reviews and the fact that reviews impact later reviews, even if they're later removed, they have this impact. So shill reviews are a big problem with these sorts of environments, where basically someone who effectively works for the manufacturer will come in and leave a glowing review. And then the next 18 reviews will all be very similar with very similar wording, and then eventually they get removed by the site. But the first few real customers, saw that. So I mean, and they get read, but they almost get discounted by the person because it's immediately obvious that this was a shill, but it shows up as being read. So it depends on how your retailer handles those types of reviews, whether they're going to contaminate your results or not.
Yeah, that's a very interesting idea. So I think maybe one way to look deeper into the data to address this issue is to look at how much time they spend reading each review, right? Maybe for those reviews that they are really suspicious about, they will just skim through them and don't pay too much attention to them. So maybe we can leverage the time spent on each review to partially address this issue. Yeah, thank you.